Welcome to Stemmy Conversation. Today, I'll be your host for this session, and my name is Robert. Before I introduce our lovely host, I'd like to encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I'd like to encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and for at Stemmy.conversation. We'll be talking all things STEM and IT. So we have our lovely host, our lovely guest here today, and her name is Stephanie Castillo. Miss Stephanie Castillo, soon to be Dr. Stephanie Castillo. She is a candidate in the scientific community at Vanderbilt University. She has a background in chemistry, teaching, science storytelling. She's also a full-time science communicator, video producer, and founder of Phuture Doctor. Phuture Doctor is a digital company which aims to expose students to careers in STEM while changing the face of science one video at a time. Welcome, Ms. Castillo, to STEMmy Conversation. And how are you today?
Click playing. There you go. Okay, now I can hear you. But thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, so excited for a conversation.
Yes. So can you tell us where you're from?
Yeah, so my family is from Venezuela, but I grew up in Florida in the United States. And right now I'm currently based in Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. So STEMmy Conversations is reaching far and wide. So tell us a little bit about your career and what you do.
Yeah, so as you lovely introduced myself as a science communicator. So my role right now is pretty much kind of like two different parts. So the science communication part, I focus on taking the research that's happening in institutions, academic institutions or private institutions, and being able to repackage it in a way that anyone can understand. So it's not just being held behind only scientists can understand. This is going to be for anybody in the general public to understand. And I also like to create videos or create content too, as another form of talking about the science.
Okay, awesome. So our viewers would be more interested in the STEM or the ICT aspect of your career. So can you tell us how these aspects are integrated into your career?
Yeah. So the fact I interact with scientists on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And so I am not only limited to what my background experience is, which is in chemistry. I get to be exposed to different types of STEM careers. So I get to talk to biologists, engineers, mathematicians, any type of field within STEM. I get to talk to these experts, and then being able to take the knowledge that these experts have, that they publish, and being able to communicate it through video or through social media posts. And so I am able to kind of, I'm not doing the hard sciences in terms of like, I'm no longer like working in a laboratory anymore, but I still get to interact with scientists and learn about science. So I'm able to understand it and communicate it to the public.
Okay, so I think one important point that you have said from that is that you don't have to be into the hard science to be involved in STEM and ICT. So that's very important, because I think sometimes it scares people to be doing full chemistry or full biology or full engineering or maths, right? But it's important to know that STEM is really a broad spectrum, and it's a little bit of everything, and not full into each subject can take you a far way. So can you tell us some of the requirements that you would have taken to get where you are today, where you would have started?
Yeah, so go ahead, sorry. Yeah, I think my path is a little bit different in terms of like, I didn't know science communication was a career opportunity until I was already pursuing my PhD in chemistry. And so I intentionally was wanting to be a researcher in chemistry. So right out of high school, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to be. So I went into community college. So in community college, I just took like general science classes, but I knew I liked chemistry class the most. And so I decided to kind of try out chemistry or biochemistry. From my community college, there was like a direct connect opportunity to like a 4-year university. And so when I transferring is where I learned about research. And so going on to a 4-year university and 4-year institution is where I solidified the fact that I wanted to continue to do chemistry. I did chemistry research as an undergraduate and really enjoyed it, learned about specifically inorganic chemistry. So we're looking at like not only the common atoms or elements that we see in the periodic table, but the whole entire periodic table to make up new materials for energy resources. And so I really liked that aspect of research. And so I decided to continue to pursue research. And in order to do that, a PhD seemed like the most logical step. So I graduated with my bachelor's in chemistry and went straight into pursuing a PhD in chemistry. But my path in pursuing the PhD was not what I anticipated. I didn't really have a really good mentor. I wasn't really getting guidance, and I didn't really feel like I was really being invested in my scientific training. So during that, I needed a moment, or I felt like I was kind of losing myself and losing my passion for science. And in doing so, I kind of turned to a creative outlet. And so I turned to making science videos, because if I'm able to talk about the science videos and work my creative muscle in producing these types of science videos, it kind of helped me find the passion for doing science again. But in exploring science videos is where I learned that like making science videos is actually part of science communication, and that science communication is actually a legit career that people can pursue. And it looks like different ways, and so I was intrigued by it and continued to explore what it means to be a science communicator, or what that looks like as a career. And in doing so, I decided to leave my chemistry PhD and pursue science communication full time. So that's kind of like my journey. To be a science communicator, you don't have to have a PhD or like a master's, but it helps having that scientific background. I found that it's helped me, at least, to have that scientific background, because I'm able to understand how research works, how it's conducted, how to analyze the information, and how it works through, how it goes from like being in a lab to being published and being put into like policy and stuff like that. So understanding that background and being able to work through that has allowed me to kind of connect closer to the scientists that I'm interviewing, and being able to correctly communicate the science that's happening, so I'm not spreading misinformation.
Okay, that I really love that, because I love how you were able to integrate that creative aspect into science, and basically revitalizing how you felt about science in itself. And my next question would have been, what inspired you into this field? But it sounds like it was just something that was led, like one thing after the other that happened that guided you onto that path. Yes. So I want to know, what opportunities what opportunities have your career presented to you? Like in terms of like, were you able to travel a lot? Like what opportunities generally has the career provided to you?
Yeah. So I think, as a graduate student, the opportunities have really presented themselves because I am a graduate student. So if I were to, I feel like as a graduate student, I have access to like being able to go to conferences to talk about the science that I was doing, but also there's professional development opportunities that are really sought out as a graduate student that has kind of helped me shaped my career and shaped me as a science communicator. So for example, there's a science filmmaking program called Jackson Wild that's open to like anyone across the world, but it's a 10-day intensive science filmmaking workshop. And because I was a graduate student, I was able to apply for it and I got accepted, which gave me the science filmmaking training to kind of like not only, me making videos, learning how to do them on YouTube as like something for fun. I took it a little bit more seriously. And with that training allowed me to kind of now market myself as a science video producer in addition to being a science communicator. And then because of that workshop, I got to I produced like a small documentary that I got to travel to Hawaii to present at a conference called SACNAS, which is for like anyone that's underrepresented in science, and got to go to different states to kind of like continue to train as a science communicator. So there was like a workshop in Atlanta, Georgia, where I learned how to write as a science writer. And then there was another opportunity that's only for graduate students called the AAAS Mass Media Fellowship, which is mostly for in-state people in the United States. But it was a 10-week internship to work at a science, like a newspaper magazine, to be their science reporter. So this past summer, I got to go to Las Vegas, and I got to be a science reporter for the Las Vegas Review Journal. And that's where I got to continue to harness my skill as a science reporter, as a science writer, and also as a video producer. And so I'm really thankful. Like there was a moment where I was going to drop out of my PhD program just because I again, like I mentioned before, I didn't feel like I was being invested in, and I wasn't really excited about the science that I was doing anymore. But because but I was able to, being a graduate student has also granted me the privileges to, if I have to travel, my university covers it, or I have funding to cover my travel. So it wasn't anything out of pocket. And because I was doing these internships or these opportunities, I get paid to do these things because I'm still under the umbrella of like a graduate student. And so those are kind of like the opportunities that I presented myself, pursuing my PhD, and also pursuing science communication professional development.
Okay, that is awesome and very, very nice. And on this note, I noticed there are a lot of opportunities for STEM in terms of training for different fields. And I just like to encourage our viewers to look for those opportunities and apply for them, as you don't know where it would lead you in the future. I know that recently you were one of the organizers for the STEM Summit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So being in the science communication field, there's a really big community on Instagram and online with other like young Black and Brown science communicators that are trying to just make a difference. And so we kind of like were friends that kind of came together, usually through Justin Schaefer, who was Mr. Fascinating on Instagram, and then Nehemiah Mabry, who was part of STEM Media, the founder of STEM Media. And they wanted to create kind of like a professional development conference that's geared towards empowering people to pursue careers in STEM. But instead of focusing on only graduate students, we opened it up to anybody. So we'd have like high school students attending all the way to like early career science or like STEM professionals. And so our main goal is to foster community, as well as giving like financial opportunities such as scholarships or certifications, or connecting with our sponsors who have like job postings. We have other people within the STEM field that are leaders in their fields doing workshops where you can learn about how to secure funding, how to, navigate academia, how to find jobs, how to present yourself in a professional way, how to build a brand. So it's very we hit on different types of aspects in terms of how do you grow as an individual so you're able to succeed and stay persistent within the STEM, whatever career that you decide to choose. So it's just like a three-day conference that was virtual, but we're realizing that we're kind of outgrowing the virtual space. We're looking into having some kind of like physical conference or physical workshop where we continue to just help everyone in their science careers to just be the best that they can be and continue to succeed, so we can continue to build our communities around us.
Yes, that sounds so good. And I agree that we are outgrowing our virtual space. I am ready to be physical again.
Same.
Yes, so thank you so much for this little insight into your career. And I'd like to know, what advice would you give young adults who would like to pursue something in STEM or ICT?
Yeah, so I think don't be narrow-minded in terms of like, I was able to to pursue where I am right now because I was curious and I was able to explore different opportunities. So if something sounds interesting and it doesn't directly align with like what you envision for yourself, like take that opportunity and take that risk to see what else you learn. So the more you explore, the more new skills you can learn. And there's different ways that you can kind of blend those all together to kind of make a unique path for yourself. But no one path is the same. So not to be discouraged if it like things don't go as planned, but continue to explore and evolve as an individual. I think you'll be surprised of like where you can lead yourself in the future.
Yes, I totally agree. I love taking opportunities, even if it doesn't align with what I usually do. So, for example, I would volunteer in different groups that are not particularly the same, and that way you get to find out, what you like and what you don't like. So, I totally agree with the advice you would have given to our young adults tuned in to STEMI conversations. This actually brings us to the end of our session. And I just like to remind everyone to tune in to our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and core accounts at stemmy.conversations to view all our podcast recordings for the rest of the year. Thank you, Miss Castillo.
Thank you for having me.